A car worth around $30 million can change shade as the light moves across it. Another, sitting around $28 million, opens up into a private champagne suite with a refrigerator. So what are the richest buyers on Earth really paying for? Speed, rarity, or pure obsession? These are the 7 most expensive cars in the world in 2026. Number 7. The Bugatti Chiron Profile, around $10.8 million. The Chiron Profile was never supposed to become a public trophy piece. It began because a handful of Bugatti clients wanted the sharper, more aggressive character of the Sport, but without all the visual shouting. They wanted something cleaner, more elegant, more like a grand touring sculpture that just happened to have a monster behind the seats. Bugatti actually built it, and then realized every Chiron build slot had already been spoken for. So instead of quietly disappearing into a private collection straight from the factory, this thing went to auction as a one-off. That alone makes it special, but the actual car backs the story up. You get a sweeping fixed rear tail, wider front air inlets, an enlarged horseshoe grille, a revised front splitter, a sculpted underbody, and aero-tuned airflow that was designed not just to look pretty, but to keep the car stable all the way to 380 kilometers per hour. Under the skin is the 1,500 PS quad turbo 8-liter W16, helped by shorter transmission ratios than the Chiron Sport, which is why it can hit 100 kilometers per hour in 2.3 seconds. And then you get inside and realize this isn't just a faster Chiron wearing a nicer suit. The cabin was hand-finished at Bugatti's atelier with leather, carbon, and solid aluminum. But the real flex is the interior weave. The Profile became the first Chiron with woven leather across the dashboard, door panels, and center console using more than 2,500 meters of leather strips. The comfort seats are finished in gris rafale and deep blue leather with Bugatti's Air Parade quilting, which means the whole interior feels less like a stripped track car and more like a one-off private lounge built around violence. That's why this car matters. It isn't only rare, it's the cleaner, more mature, still ridiculously fast final wink of the W16 Bugatti era. Number 6. The Rolls-Royce Sweptail, around $13 million. Now we go from hypercar brutality to something almost weirdly calm. The Sweptail feels like what happens when someone with infinite money decides they're done buying cars and wants a private object instead. It reportedly cost around $13 million, took 4 years to build, and was commissioned by a client who wanted a 2-seat Grand Tourer inspired by classic Rolls-Royces from the 20s and 30s, mixed with the proportions of modern yachts. And you can see that idea instantly. The whole car stretches out into this long, tapering rear section with a falling waistline, a flowing roof, and a tail that looks less like automotive design and more like someone drew a luxury yacht from memory and then gave it a grille. What really sells the Sweptail, though, is the way Rolls-Royce treated the interior like architecture. The roof is one enormous panoramic glass canopy that runs deep into the car and floods the cabin with light. The surfaces are clean, minimal, and almost silent looking. There aren't random distractions fighting for attention. Instead, you get this feeling of uninterrupted space, polished wood, rich leather, and hidden controls that don't interrupt the visual calm. Under the hood sits Rolls-Royce's 6.75-liter V12, which is exactly the right engine for a car like this, because the point was never lap times. The point was to build something that makes the owner feel like the world has been edited down to only the things they personally find beautiful. That's why the Sweptail still hits so hard. It doesn't flex with horsepower numbers first. It flexes with taste, patience, and the idea that a car can feel custom-tailored in the same way a couture suit or private yacht does. Number 5. The SP Automotive Chaos Zero Gravity, around $14.5 million. The Chaos Zero Gravity sounds like somebody got bored with the word hypercar and decided to build a boss fight instead. The numbers are just stupid in the most entertaining way possible. The company claims 3,064.7 horsepower in zero gravity form, a weight of just 1,272 kilograms, a top speed above 500 kilometers per hour, and a 0 to 100 run of under 1.55 seconds. That is not normal acceleration. That is, your organs getting a sub-insinum. Surprise meeting invitation. The car itself is just as extreme as the spec sheet. You've got a V10 with a 3D printed magnesium alloy engine block, Xylon elements, titanium wishbones, 3D printed magnesium wheels and brakes, fingerprint recognition, and an augmented reality user interface. Even the dimensions are dramatic, low, wide, and stretched like the whole body was designed after someone said regular exotics still look too reasonable. And that's what makes the Chaos fascinating. It doesn't sell luxury the traditional way. It sells you a piece of aerospace-flavored future panic. The cool features here are not champagne fridges or wood marquetry. The cool features are the kind that make the car sound like classified equipment. The cabin is built around that same alien energy with integrated tech, exotic structural materials, and a sense that every visible part is there to remind you this thing was engineered like a machine first and a status object second. Whether you buy all the claims or not, the Chaos earns its place because there is nothing else on this list that looks so much like it escaped from the next decade by accident. Number 4. The Pagani Zonda HP Barchetta, around $17.5 million. The Zonda HP Barchetta is what happens when a farewell letter becomes a car. Only 3 exist, and one of them belongs to Horacio Pagani himself, which already tells you this isn't just another limited-run special. This thing was built as a tribute to the car that created the Pagani myth in the first place. And unlike the futuristic madness of the Chaos, the HP Barchetta goes the opposite direction. It makes raw mechanical intimacy feel priceless. The chassis is Pagani Carbo Titanium and Carbo Triax HP52. The engine is a Mercedes AMG V12 mounted longitudinally in the rear. It sends power to the back wheels through a 6-speed manual gearbox with a mechanical self-locking differential. The car weighs 1,250 kilograms dry, rides on forged aluminum wheels, uses Brembo carbon ceramic brakes, and sits on adjustable Olin suspension. So even before you talk about beauty, the hardware is already elite. But the reason people lose their minds over the HP Barchetta is the experience. There's basically no roof, barely a windshield, and those covered rear wheel arches make it look like a vintage racing fantasy that somehow survived into the modern world. Inside, it feels handcrafted in the most Pagani way possible. Exposed artistry, visible materials, special textures, and that sense that every little component was obsessed over until it looked like jewelry. This isn't the kind of $17.5 million car you buy to prove you're current. You buy this because you want one of the last great analog gods, the kind of machine that still makes the gearshift itself feel like an event. Number 3. Bugatti La Voiture Noire, around $18.9 million. This one is expensive even before you get into the mystery. La Voiture Noire is Bugatti doing grief, mythology, and brute force all at once. It was built as a tribute to the missing Type 57 SC Atlantic, the legendary black Bugatti that vanished during World War II, and that ghost story is baked into every panel. The body is long, black, sculpted, and almost liquid-looking, with a dorsal spine running down the center like a callback to the original Atlantic. Out back, you get 6 exhaust tips, an illuminated rear light signature, and a shape that feels less like a normal hypercar and more like an ultra-luxury grand tourer that accidentally learned how to go feral. Underneath it all is the familiar 8-liter quad turbo W16 with around 1,500 horsepower and 1,600 Newton-meters of torque, which means even the tribute piece still does 0 to 100 in about 2.4 seconds. The interior is where the car gets even more interesting, because Bugatti didn't go minimalist and cold. It went rich. Havana brown grain leather, polished and turned aluminum inlays on the console, spine and doors, plus a rosewood switch for the driving modes. That matters because it tells you exactly what this car is trying to be. Not a stripped weapon, not a loud track day flex, a black tie Bugatti. A one-off continent crusher with the manners of a luxury coupe and the engine of a small apocalypse. And the owner staying invisible somehow makes it better. A car this expensive, this dramatic, and this historically loaded disappearing into private silence that almost feels like part of the design brief. Number 2. The Rolls-Royce Boat Tail, around $28 million. This is where luxury stops pretending to be practical. The boat tail is nearly 6 meters long, and before you even get to the famous party trick, the design already looks like money trying to become architecture. The whole rear deck is inspired by luxury yachts, shaped like a polished aft section ready to dock somewhere cinematic. Then you press a button, and the whole thing opens in a sweeping butterfly motion to reveal the hosting suite. And now the car isn't just a car anymore. It's an event platform. There's a parasol, a double refrigerator tuned to 6 degrees for Armand de Brignac champagne, and a whole presentation ritual built into the vehicle. The deck itself is finished in royal walnut veneer with rose gold plated pinstripes, which already sounds like something from a private residence instead of a road car. And then the details just keep going. Rolls-Royce and Beauvais 1822 spent more than 3 years developing the two-sided timepieces for the first boat tail, which can be worn on the wrist or mounted into the fascia as the dashboard clock. On another boat tail, the center clock is made from mother-of-pearl supplied by the client. Inside, you get perfectly matched cognac and oyster leather, royal walnut veneer, rose gold pinstripes, and mother-of-pearl accents running through the switches and dials. Even the engineering effort is absurd, with Rolls-Royce saying 1,813 completely new parts were created specifically for the project. So when people call this a $28 million car, that's technically true, but it undersells what's actually going on. This is more like a private hospitality suite, a piece of coach-built art, and a rolling family biography sharing one V12 powertrain. Number 1. The Rolls-Royce Le Rose Noir Droptail. $30 million. And now we get to the car that feels like Rolls-Royce looked at the idea of excess and decided it still wasn't personal enough. The Le Rose Noir Droptail is the first of 4 droptails, each built for a single client, and this one takes its whole identity from the black Baccara rose, a flower that can shift from deep red to almost black depending on the light. That's why the paint matters so much. Rolls-Royce developed the True Love finish over 150 iterations, with layers designed to create that same changing effect. So the car can read as dark pomegranate in shade, and then light up into a richer, more radiant red in direct sun. The bright work gets its own special finish called Hydro Shade. The grille veins are kinked instead of straight, and the reverse sides of those veins are painted in true love, so the red only reveals itself through reflection. Even before you sit inside, the whole car already feels like it was built around the idea of controlled drama. Then you open the door, and the real flex begins. This is a cocooning 2-seat Rolls-Royce, something the marque calls a first in its modern history, and it can be driven either as an open roadster or with the hard roof installed as a coupe. The shawl panel, fascia, and doors carry the most complex parquetry Rolls-Royce has ever created, made from 1,603 pieces of black sycamore veneer arranged like falling rose petals. That single craftsperson could only work in 1-hour sessions, in silence for no more than 5 hours a day, tells you exactly what level of concentration this thing demanded. The parquetry alone took nearly 2 years of development and over 9 months of flawless craftsmanship. Then you add the mystery and true love leathers with a subtle copper shimmer, the yacht-like sail cowls at the rear, the low romantic seating position, and that rose-inspired color story running through everything. So yes, this is the most expensive new car in the world. But the bigger point is this: Le Rose Noir Droptail doesn't feel like somebody spent $30 million on transportation. It feels like they spent $30 million turning a personal emotion into a machine. So there it is, 7 cars, 7 completely different ways money stops behaving like money. Sometimes it buys the last chapter of an engine era. Sometimes it buys a private yacht mood in road car form. And sometimes it buys a floor so intricate it took longer to perfect than most people stay at a job. If this list got you, drop your number 1 in the comments and subscribe, because the next one is somehow even more ridiculous.